Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here on my next Naruto Gaiden chapter review. This one's going to be for Chapter 7, Genetic Slaves, otherwise known as Chapter 700 and 7 or 700 plus 7. So yeah, this was an interesting chapter. Definitely it's just the whole, like, the negative is obviously like, oh, they're still trying to make it like sound like Karin is Sarada's mother, when I think realistically everyone knows that that's not the case, and it's all just a big red herring, and it's all leading to some big misunderstanding, and they're trying to do something just with the themes and stuff like that to eventually bring it together at the end. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty good chapter just because we learned a little bit more about the villain and what he was about and who he actually is. We got to reintroduce to some characters that we haven't seen since the big time skip. And they seem to have at least set up a little bit of where the story is actually going. So let's address our villain first. Shin Uchiha, we get the explanation for who he is. He's not an Uchiha. He's just calling himself that because he's obsessed with Itachi. Now, is there anything more to that obsession than just he's obsessed with Itachi? Then I'm not really sure. But he was one of Orochimaru's test subjects, and his special ability was that his body would accept anything implanted into it. So that's why he has so many Sharingan eyes and stuff like that. And the explanation is that one of his... What is it? One of his... This is what I wasn't very clear on. He says that he was the child who literally became Danzo's arm. And then they kind of cut to like an image of the older Shin Uchiha missing his arm, but he had it before. So I was very confused by what they actually meant by that. When I first read it, I was kind of like, okay, one of the clones, they basically grew a clone just to get the arm and then cut the clone's arm off to give to Danzo or something like that. Or Shin Uchiha initially, his arm was lost because Orochimaru gave it to Danzo, and now Shin has been using his other clones to grow a new arm. I just was really confused by like whose arm is what, which clone is which, and stuff like that. But anyway, I roughly got what they were going for. That Orochimaru, in developing all his clone techniques, basically made these exact clones that don't disappear. They're not some crazy jutsu or anything like that. It's just these are literal clones with the same genes as the actual Shin Uchiha, and Shin Uchiha is basically just using them as spare parts. They basically say he grew them from his teeth, so that's why Shin Uchiha doesn't have any teeth, because all of them are for clones, for spare parts to keep himself going. Fair enough. And he has all these implants because Orochimaru was obviously experimenting with all of these implantations to get the best body, to have the most abilities in his body, and I guess it makes sense that he would want a body that could accept as many Sharingans as possible. But again, just that whole connection to Danzo, I felt it could have been explained a little bit better. Maybe someone in the comments can explain to me the full details. That maybe I'm just missing something, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I was just like, what? And then, yeah, the conversation with Sakura was interesting in that it all just came across like, okay, genes, it's all about, advancing the species and advancing. That's all he's really talking about. That war, the reason Akatsuki exists is to create war, because during war, humanity, progresses and stuff like that, and that's why they exist. And it's the same with children. The whole idea of bringing two people together to make a child is that the child has better genes from there and is stronger, and he kind of equates it to this idea of that you're living on through your child. Even though you technically die, you are your genes and you continue on with the child. And I guess that's what it's going for, and that's an interesting concept. But as I said before, I really don't think the main idea of this series is really that the villain is going to be crazy interesting. This is not going to be a Pain or anything like that, Nagato, where we where they're really going to heavily go into something with Shin Uchiha and get this like emotional turn around for him. Maybe they will do something like that, but I don't think it will have the same impact as some of the other villains. They've created this villain who has this kind of opposing idea to, I suppose, most of our main characters' idea of kind of how they treat children as just something to be cared for, and it's not just a whole genes thing. That it is a person that they very much care about, and they didn't have the kid to be another more powerful version of themselves or anything like that. They had a kid to have a kid. Um, and they seem to be trying to do something like comparing Shin Uchiha's that side of the story, the villains, to our heroes, and especially Sarada's situation, where she is so set on finding out who her biological mother is that she's kind of ignoring the fact that Sakura is your mother. She may not be your blood mother, relative, whatever, but she did raise you. As far as you're aware, you've never met Karin before, but you know who Sakura is. And I get that it's a big emotional thing for her to find out who her parents actually are, but and I think that perhaps that's what they're leading towards here, that she's constantly going to miss out on all these opportunities to find out because someone isn't saying something to her, and she'll maybe come to accept Sakura as her mother, and then by the time she's done this, then the reveal will come out that no, wait, Sakura is actually your mother, and maybe that's what they're going for. That it isn't just all about genes, it isn't all about blood ties. It is the connections fundamentally that is the key thing here. Because I suppose what they're maybe trying to hint at a little bit is that for most of Naruto didn't know who his parents were. And so when growing up, he basically kind of, in many ways, had Iruka as a parent. And he, in many ways, treats Iruka like a parent, even though Iruka isn't related to him at all. And maybe that's the idea they're trying to go for, that it's connections are more, and emotional kind of ties are more important than just straight up blood ties. And maybe Sarada is going to have to learn something about that. But I don't really know if that's the idea that they're going for. She seems very angry about what's happened, and of course, what actually happens is they go to Orochimaru's lab. He explains this to them. He mentions there's this idea that now there's technology where you can actually check if someone's related to someone else, and she asks, does this apply to non-clones as well, actual just parents and children? And he's like, yes, it does. Do you want to test that out? They kind of ignore it because Sasuke wants to get on with things, and then she just silently in the background asks Suigetsu to do it, and he tests it, and he goes into Karin's drawer in this hideout. She's in a different hideout conveniently, and just randomly out of nowhere it's just said, hey, that's Karin, that must be from when she was born. I'm just like, how do you know that? Why would she tell you that this is a hair from when she was born? So I think the idea that they're going for here is that obviously Karin has red hair, Sasuke has black hair. The only way to effectively do this kind of trickery thing is that when Karin was born, her hair wasn't red immediately when she was born. That she was probably born with or something like that. They're trying to just get it across that most people know that the kind of hair color you have as a newborn baby isn't always the same as your actual hair color that develops, and maybe that's why Suigetsu wasn't obviously like, hey, this isn't Karin's hair or anything like that. It's not red. But again, this is one of the things when you don't have a color page to show this. But I think that's what they're going for. That he has basically what he's done is he hasn't picked up one of Karin's hairs because, as I said, it just seems so weird that she keeps a hair from when she was born. Like, how could she even have that? Really, it's just weird. So the obvious idea is that Karin was obsessed with Sasuke, like kind of crazy stalker obsessed. So clearly she took some of his hair at some point and has kept it as a memento with her. And so what's happened here is it hasn't been Sarada's DNA compared against Karin's, which is what the match is. it's actually Sarada's hair being compared against Sasuke's, and that's why the match has happened. Because I suppose this is just a direct DNA comparison rather than saying this DNA belongs to this person, this DNA belongs to this person. Karin is Sarada's mother. It's just I think I have Karin's DNA here, and I know I have Sarada's DNA, and these two match without actually identifying who the hair actually belongs to. So, um, it's weird to talk about this kind of DNA match thing in Naruto, but I think it's really obvious that Karin is not Sarada's mother. Um, it brings up a lot of questions because then Naruto's going like, wait, Sasuke, did he really do this? And then Suigetsu's like, what were you doing, Sasuke? And everyone's just like suddenly believing it now because of this DNA match. And I'm just beginning to question now, like, we now have a ton of questions just about the situation surrounding Sarada's birth. That Naruto, I assume, would have had to have known at some point that Sakura was pregnant. Would have to have seen her pregnant at some point. Like, how could he not? I get that, like, in the show, he was completely unaware that Kurenai was pregnant until Shikamaru basically said so. But he would have had to have known Sakura was pregnant. And so that must be knowledge that Sakura at some point was pregnant. Where's that kid? Is Naruto just kind of caught up in this moment, not thinking about the fact that, hey, I did see Sakura when she was pregnant or something like that? It feels weird just talking about this, but it's making me ask all these questions, and I'm just like, okay, is there something more to Sarada's birth other than the fact that Sasuke was gone from the village because he was on this mission to investigate something, and the mission had to be kept secret? Because Shizune didn't want to tell Sarada about her birth and how it happened. Sakura was about to tell Sarada this kind of emotional speech about something before she was kind of teleported away. Even Sasuke, I think, was about to say something. So at some point, things are leading towards either some combination of Sakura and or Sasuke just talking to Sarada about what actually happened when she was born and confirming this some way or another. I don't really know where things are going. Like, we end the chapter with just a really angry Sarada with her Sharingan out. So either she's going to run off or something like that and maybe go find Karin, who she thinks is her actual mother, and then we'll get the full reveal from Karin that, like, she's just kind of like, yeah, I wish you were my daughter and me and Sasuke at some point were together. But no, that's not true, or something like that. Or Sasuke is just going to walk into the room, start the next chapter, and explain some stuff. But knowing Sasuke and how Kishimoto is writing Sasuke, he's probably going to walk in and just like, I don't care what you think, you're my daughter. As far as I'm aware, Sakura is your mother, believe me or not. Like, that's the sort of reaction I'm thinking we're going to get, because I just can't really imagine this Sasuke really going emotional in sort of an explanation to Sarada. But yeah, some other stuff was, it was cool to see Jugo, Orochimaru, and Suigetsu again, obviously. It was cool to get to see Yamato again, who obviously is very much absent from like the whole like last 100 chapters basically of the full series. So it was cool to get to see him again, especially just the little back and forth between him and Naruto, that Naruto still calls Yamato Captain Yamato, even though Naruto's a much higher rank than he is now. So that's pretty cool, and Yamato seems permanently assigned to watching Orochimaru's hideout. Orochimaru isn't doing anything evil right now, but Yamato's watching constantly. But yeah, I think the important thing is like, where do they go from here? Because they still haven't done anything with Sakura and Sheen. Like, is she gonna do a transplant or not? When is he gonna get back into things? How are they going to find Sakura? Where does Sarada go from here? Does she run off, like I said, or do they stick around and she's angry, but she sticks around with them to maybe find out the truth? Maybe Sasuke will do his usual thing where he doesn't really like the long explanations, and he's just like, no, come with me and the truth will come out when we go find your mother or something like that. Um, and then, like, is Boruto gonna get involved in this story, like, at all? Because it's just like, he's been absent for a while now, and like, is the story in any way about him? So I'm just very confused right now about just some of the nature of the villain, the whole Danzo arm thing, and just where on earth the story is going. I I would be incredibly surprised if it was an actual thing that Karin is Sarada's mother. Like, really shocked if that was the case. So I really do think it is just a huge red herring that it was just Suigetsu compared what he thought was Karin's hair against Sarada, but it was actually just a hair Karin stole from Sasuke because she's obsessed with him. That seems like the most logical explanation. So, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the chapter. Did you have any issues with it or anything like that? Your thoughts on my review. But other than that, thanks for watching the review, and bye.